Today I want to talk about why I, as a gay man, am tired of the trans community. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Sometimes I feel like the best thing you can do for your own community is be 100% honest. And that's what I intend to do on this particular video. And I do understand when you disagree with people from the LGBT community, they will try to vilify you to a point where you're a transphobe, you're hateful, you're the worst person in the world. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is what's happened with the LGBT community. It has really been hijacked by the T. And when I say the T, I'm going to use some old school verbiage here just to get the point across. Back in the day, it was just one other thing other than lesbian, gay, and bisexual. It was trans, which stood for transsexual. That terminology is since considered outdated because people seem to agree that you can't technically change your sex. So transsexual is no longer considered the accepted term. But I'm going to use the term transsexual because to me, a transsexual is a person that's going either from male to female or female to male, depending on what their situation was. When I was younger, I hung out with a lot of these people. I have lifelong friends now that have been in my chosen family for 30 years. I came out in the 90s. And so I'm very used to trans people that really just wanted to live as what would be their most authentic self. But what has happened with trans specifically is the term became transgender. Well, transgender, which I'm sure you've all heard on the news, if you don't know what it is, now it also encompasses people that identify as non-binary, so they and them, which I've already been honest, I'm not doing the they and them. I don't care how anybody feels about it. I don't care how mad people get. I'm just not doing they and them for singular people. And I know that some people would say, well, we've used that forever. We've used it forever if we actually didn't see the person. So we would be like, they left their bag here. But if it's a woman standing in front of us, most of us would just say she or her. When it comes to men, obviously he and him. And those were the accepted pronouns for pretty much everybody up until just recently. People started trying to go by the non-binary, and I say trying because society isn't buying it. People were just getting to a point when Caitlyn Jenner came out, and I don't credit her with all of this. There were a lot of high visibility trans people at the time. There were a lot of ways that people were being introduced to transgender. People were coming to terms with what used to commonly be referred to as a transsexual, and people were getting to a point where it was becoming normalized, which is something I've said that I've wanted for a very long time. If anybody were to go on way back and be able to find my MySpace from forever ago, they would see that even back in MySpace days, when this wasn't popular, that I was saying that I wanted to help my trans friends be more accepted. And if I could be a part of making that happen, that's something I would definitely like to do. Since then, I still feel that way about my friends, but when it comes to what calls itself the transgender community in general, not so much. I'm not at all for these people. And it's just because when I was coming up, it was just about trying to have the same rights as everybody else, the same treatment as everybody else, not be subjected to physical violence, not be subjected to physical threats. And I will tell you, as a person that was hanging out with trans people on the daily when I was younger, I mean all the time, like running errands, doing all the stuff that we do as human beings during a day, all of that stuff would turn into a situation sometimes because it was very accepted for people to discriminate against gay people and trans people. Anything that was different was not accepted during that time. And I got very used to having my friends' backs. I used to be one of the ones making sure that all the trans men and women that I knew got home safely at the end of the night. I was very well known for being like, hey, you need a ride, let's get you home, let's make sure you got home safe. A lot of my friends worked the streets because back then there were two options for trans women. The two options were you could either strap your breasts down if you had breasts, pull your hair back, wear no makeup, and try to look as much like a man as you possibly could. That was one way you could work. Or you could be a prostitute. Those were the two choices back then. Now, most trans people can get regular jobs if that's what they want. And so, with what's going on now and these people that identify as non-binary, I technically wouldn't have a problem with that either. And I'm not trying to give any kind of call to action for any kind of hate to anybody, because that's not what I'm about. The thing that has started to bother me, though, is that these people that are something different don't know how to talk to anybody with the same respect that they're not asking for, but demanding. And when you demand something without giving the same in exchange, you're probably not going to get it. Not even from me. And I'm a person that's very tolerant to that kind of thing. But once you tell me what it is I'm going to do and how it is I'm going to think, guess what? I'm not going with your agenda at all. And I notice it's always about, let me say, and when I say me, them, let me say the most vile thing that I can say to somebody, and then they're not allowed to misgender me. That's the way they see it. And so earlier when I made the video where I said that we're kind of all agreeing to an unspoken social contract that we will humor other people, it really is us just being like, okay, well, you say this is what you are, and maybe I don't understand it, and maybe I don't have to understand it, but I'm going to respect it. Well, as soon as you disrespect me and you decide that you're going to say what you consider to be the most vile things about me, and that's what your goal is, and then I hit you back with, well, guess what? You're a woman, and that's what it is. And then all of a sudden you turn into the victim and you're like, how dare you misgender me? You're a transphobe. You're hateful. Oh, well, just a second ago when you were saying every terrible thing you thought you could say to me, you were okay with that. But now all of a sudden there's these unspoken rules that I'm supposed to abide by, and it's the worst thing for me to misgender you. No, in my community, that's what's called reading. And if you're not familiar with what reading is, you are basically dressing them down. That would be another term for reading somebody, where it's just like, let's get to the base of this. Let me tell you what I think of you. You're telling me what you think of me, but suddenly I'm supposed to hold back when it comes to you for some reason. Well, guess what? You're not that special. The non-binary also make no commitment. Like, there was this person that got mad at me that to the naked eye would be just a regular woman, and that's what she was born, is a woman. But she identifies as a they, them, and he. Those are her pronouns, supposedly. But I'll show a video of her. Tell me that, one, this person looks like they're fully together within their faculties, let's put it that way. And also tell me that this person looks like anything other than a woman. So when you're asking me to refer to you as he, when I see nothing about a he in front of me, I'm not going to just go with that, especially when you're trying to be as rude as you possibly can with me because I've said something you don't agree with. So for some reason, if you don't agree with me, that's completely okay. But if I don't agree with you, suddenly I'm transphobic, I'm hateful, I hate myself, I hate the community, I'm a terrible example of what a gay man should be, and I'm just supposed to be an ally. Well, I never signed up to be an ally. I never said I was going to be your ally. I never said I was going to have your back. I never signed on for any of this stuff. All I ever wanted when I was coming up was just to be treated like everybody else. So I've noticed that other trans people are getting tired of this because my TikTok, I'm just starting to build it up. I've only started using TikTok basically within the last month. I've had a TikTok since December, but only within the last month have I really started posting my opinions and talking on TikTok. So these are trans people I've never met before. A lot of them are closer to my generation, and so they're trying to tell the younger transgender and non-binary people, no, there is a difference between me and you. Like when it comes to like a transsexual person, which is, like I said, incorrect terminology, but it's a good identifier. When it comes to transsexual people, they don't have a choice but to go out as themselves at this point. Like they either are men or women, And we all know that it's called a transition for a reason. So sometimes they don't necessarily look the way that they're supposed to look, and they're just getting started, and it is very expensive. So I do understand why some don't look the best or the most convincing or the most passable, as some would say, as in passing in society, looking like the gender that they identify as. I get why that is. And I do not give a problem to those people, because that was also very common when I was younger. When people would be starting their transition, a lot of times you'd know them as a boy or as a girl, and then all of a sudden they'd come out and you'd just be like, something looks different about you, you know? And it was that they were slowly starting to make their changes. They were dipping a toe in the transsexual waters. And so we'd all pretend like we didn't notice, and we'd just go along with it like whatever. But there was always a change. Well, now with a lot of what identify as non-binary and consider themselves transgender or identify as transgender or non-binary, you don't know that they would be anything else. It's like the example I showed with that girl. It's like they'll otherwise look like any other man or any other woman, but they're identifying as trans, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But they're the loudest, they're the most rude, they're the most militant, and they do nothing to help with the situation that's going on right now, because a lot of people are at a tipping point. Some people are leaning more towards forget trans people altogether. I'm not doing any of it with any of them. You are what you're born. There's plenty of people that are from that school of thought. Like I said, I actually would like to see what used to be transsexual people be able to live the way that they want to live, be able to have normal lives, whatever normal is, and be able to be accepted as much as society is ever going to be able to accept any of us. None of us are ever going to really be able to live the way we want to 100% judgment free. Whether it's our friends, our family, or society in general, people are going to judge us. But if we could minimize that to the point where what I would call transsexual people are able to live as much like anybody else as they possibly can, that's something that I would like to see happen. But it's not going to be able to happen with what the transgender community is doing right now. So I'll see other trans people jump in and say, hey, there is a difference between you as non-binary and me as an actual transsexual or a transgender person that has started medical changes or has actually taken steps towards living as the gender that they identify as. So you're the people that have the least stake involved, because at any point you can just pretend that you're straight, because everything you're doing is in your head. And there was recently a trans woman by the name of Cadigan that got in a lot of trouble on TikTok because she said that she didn't care about pronouns. And she also said something that I consider to be probably one of the most profound things that I've heard anybody from my community say regarding this. She said,
why does it seem like so many people in the community, particularly the non-binary community, are offended? Is it because a lot of you guys, the only transition that's taking place really is your pronouns? Because to me, my transition and who I am is a lot more than my pronouns.
So of course it makes sense that that would be the most important thing in the world to them, because that's really all they've done. So when I say that trans people are getting tired of the transgender community, that definitely is a thing that's happening. And I feel like if I'm going to be helpful to my community on any level, which some people would say because of the way that I voted or because of the way that I live my life, that I'm not going to be able to do that anyway, take it or leave it. You either like me or you don't. I'm not here for your approval. I'm not looking for your acceptance. But I will tell you that my intentions when it comes to my own community, being the LGBTQ community, is that I really would like to see us be able to live a life that is as unbothered as it possibly could be. And so if I can do anything to help facilitate that, I will do whatever I can to help make that happen. But right now, I feel like the best thing I can do is be completely honest and just say, if you're transgender, more specifically non-binary, every once in a while, sit back, listen not only to people like me, and not because I'm me and I'm smarter than you and I'm whatever, but I do have more life experience than a lot of these people. A lot of these people weren't even alive when I first started hanging out with trans people, and that's 100% true. It's no exaggeration. So for you to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about and that your way of thinking is the only way of thinking, no. I'm a person from your community telling you that you're messing up. You've got transsexual people telling you that you're messing up and you're mishandling things, and you refuse to accept it because you are acting like a spoiled child. You refuse to accept that anybody can think any way other than the way you think, but at the same time, you want everybody to go out of their way to understand the way you feel, and that's not the way the world works. So this is the most honest I can be about it. I'm going to make a video coming up with full-on clips and everything that you need to understand how it is I think the LGBT community is falling short, why it is I think that we're losing favor in general when it comes to us as a community on the whole. And if you don't know this is coming down the pipe, I've been trying to tell you guys for a while now, there is a movement that's starting within the community where people want to drop the T. So they just want to make it the LGB community. So lesbian, gay, and bisexual, and drop the trans. And I'm getting to the point where I can 100% understand what it is they're saying, because the T has gotten out of control and it's really hijacked the entire movement and turned everything into being about them. And I never promised that I would 100% just have the backs of these random people that are, in a lot of cases, not the most stable. I hope that explains it for everybody, because to tell you the truth, I'm bummed out. I am bummed out in what the community has turned into. And I don't want to hide that. I don't want to pretend it's not happening. I am disappointed in the community. And it's making me kind of understand what people are saying. But then once my cooler head takes over, I'm like, no, I don't want the transsexual people that I knew coming up. And there's even a lot from the younger generation that are just looking to live their lives and kind of fly under the radar like a lot of us get to. So I hope that explains it for you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.